You keep calling me Dimitri. You really shouldn't. Hello YouTubers, you're on a new episode of Action Reaction. My name is Frederick Lopez, and today I'm going to be reviewing Mission Impossible 2, also known as MI2, from the year 2000. Now, I actually remember seeing this in theaters when it came out. It was in May of 2000, and I was highly looking forward to it. Now, this is regarded as the weakest Mission Impossible film. One of the weakest sequels as well. But despite it being very different from the first, it is a really well-made action movie. And while it may not be a good Mission Impossible film, I feel that it is a good film, if that makes sense. So I'm going to give a brief background, synopsis, and my personal thoughts and reaction to this action movie. Mission Impossible 2, of course, stars Tom Cruise as Ethan Hunt. Tandy Newton plays Nia Nordhoff Hall. Dougray Scott plays Sean Ambrose. Ving Rhames returns as Luther Stickle. Richard Roxburgh plays Hugh Stamp. John Polson plays Billy Baird. Brendan Gleeson plays John C. McCloy. And Tom Cruise's cousin, William Mapother, plays Wallace. The film is directed by John Woo. So yeah, John Woo came in to direct this movie, and he brings his signature action. Basically, if you're familiar with his work in Broken Arrow and Face Off, as well as Hard Boiled and the Stranglehold video games, it's pretty much more of that type of stuff. And yeah, it's very different. Tom Cruise originally wanted Brian De Palma to come back, and he turned it down, probably because of the direction of this. First one was more of an espionage thriller. As a matter of fact, Ethan Hunt didn't fire a gun at all in the first Mission Impossible. So this is exact opposite of MI1. Mission Impossible is more like the TV show, espionage, and kind of more like suspense. And basically, it became an action movie the last 10 minutes, and that carries over to this film, which is all action. The most action probably out of the other ones. The other ones kind of had a good blend of the espionage and the action stuff from this, but this one's just like all action. And I have to say, I really like it. Plus, it has one of the best motorcycle chases ever on film, like really. I think the only scenes I've seen rival it or even surpass it is Rogue Nation, where he's on a motorcycle chase, and maybe the highway chase scene in Matrix Reloaded. Other than that, it's really great stuff and all real. So what is Mission Impossible 2 about? Well, Ethan Hunt pretty much has to stop a rogue IMF agent played by Dougray Scott, Sean Ambrose. He impersonates Tom Cruise and instills this virus called Chimera. And basically it has an antivirus called Bellerophon, and he wants to sell it, so he needs the other half. And Ethan Hunt has to stop him from selling this dangerous virus in the black market. So he contacts Nia Nordhoff Hall, and he pretty much has to seduce her. They end up getting a romance, and it turns out she was an ex of Sean Ambrose. So she has to be sent there to Sean Ambrose's place and infiltrate the area and get intel. So that becomes very complicated, since Ethan Hunt in the first half of the movie is really, it's kind of a love story. It's very different. It's him falling in love with her, and she's needed for the mission, but Ethan Hunt thinks it's for her cat burglar skills, and it's pretty much because she has a history to Sean Ambrose. So they have to find out where the virus is, and make a long story short, he has to stop him from selling it, and there's complications along the way. And yeah, he has to stop him. It's a regular Mission Impossible, but with just a lot of action. For those who have seen it, I know it's really brief summary of what happened, but that's just a quick synopsis. Ving Rhames returns. It's nice seeing him as Luther. There's a lot more humor between him and Tom Cruise. Tom Cruise has his long hair in this. It's a very different Ethan Hunt. It's almost like Ethan Hunt learned how to live a little after the first one and became an adrenaline junkie. And that could be a good or bad thing, but it's a very different Mission Impossible. And originally, before they started continuing from one another, Tom Cruise wanted a different director and also have like a different movie. So even though it's a sequel, it's more of a standalone feature. It's a totally different movie. It's a totally different type of Ethan Hunt, even though there's some references and similarities to the one in the first. Overall, it's completely different. So the story's there. It's okay. It's pretty much an action movie. It still has kind of the 90s action movie elements to it, as far as the goons and everything, but it is nice having a rogue IMF agent, and that's cool seeing like the flip side of Tom Cruise. Now, you did have Jim Phelps in the first one, but it's kind of cool seeing an agent that's more like Tom Cruise in this. And they play a lot with the face mask grip. As a matter of fact, D. Gary Scott just had a regular mask at the beginning, and it had sensors on it. And then Tom Cruise was there, and he had to act like he was ripping his face off. And they pretty much superimposed the both of them on a green screen, and then had Tom Cruise's face over the mask. So when it was there, you made it look like it was Tom Cruise, and then it was D. Gary Scott underneath. Very cool. They add the little voice chip thing so it's not in their actual throats. Also, I liked it where the eye, there's a knife part, and they had it on cables, and it's like right on Tom Cruise's eye. I'm like, oh my god. Just crazy stuff there, and then the fight scene between them two is just brilliant. I like it. Like I said, the film story is okay, but it was originally 3.5 hours and rated R, and the studio only had to have it at 120 minutes, so that might explain why there's some plot holes and stuff. But besides the story, how does the action relate? The action is really damn good. There's a lot of martial arts. Tom Cruise does his own stuff, as always. There's an opening shot on the mountain in Utah, and oh my god, it is crazy. Expendables 3 tried to do what MI2 did, where he just like jumps, almost goes, misses, and then I love that introduction shot where he wraps around and you just see his face. Great profile shot, sets up Ethan Hunt well, and then gets to go where he's just like, this message will self-destruct in 5 seconds, and he's just like, if you're going to go on vacation, please let us know where you go. And he's like, it wouldn't be a holiday. And then he just like, blows up into the screen. Much more action-packed and fast-paced. Tells you what kind of movie it is from the get-go. But it still has a lot of deep moments and story. I was surprised. There's some deep moments in this. And in a way, it's kind of a dark Mission Impossible. There's a lot of dark stuff in 3 and 5, but like this one's actually pretty dark like the first one still. Just has a lot more summer blockbuster action. And the martial arts, like I said, Tom Cruise's stuff is good. Him and D. Gray Scott fighting is great. The motorcycle chase scenes, a lot of gun violence, and stuff just explodes like everywhere. But it's crazy. The motorcycle part, it's like that Mission Improbable skit with Ben Stiller, where it's just like, this mission is about to get a hell of a lot more impossible, where it's motorcycle jousting. Yeah, this is the only action film where you're going to see motorcycles joust each other, and two guys just basically just like, jump off and go, ah! And then the other one blow up and then go off. Now, supposedly, there's supposed to be a fight on the mountain in the longer cut, and then he tackled him off there. But they made it like one cut to where it like hit and then went off. Which, the original version makes more sense, because this is just like, it just goes against the laws of physics, you know? Just like, ah! Crazy, right? But the motorcycle stuff's great. Luther shooting the car and the flames. Tom Cruise going through the flames. Best motorcycle shot in an action movie since Arnold Schwarzenegger in Terminator 2 Judgment Day, when he goes off the ramp and into the little thing by the 18-wheeler. Great stuff. Just great stuff. Action's cool. That moment where you think Tom Cruise got killed off was so intense when I first saw it, and then it turns out that it was his right-hand man, and that reveal is great. And let's get to the soundtrack. Hans Zimmer provides a score to this. Now, a lot of it does sound like the Broken Arrow score, but you get to hear some other elements and some electric guitar. And then before we go, the music. I have the soundtrack to this. Say what you will about Limp Bizkit and what they did to rock and roll in the late 90s, but their theme of Take a Look Around and then the Mission Impossible theme and guitar is really, really catchy, and I like it for this movie. It just kicks ass and it's like great stuff, and then Hans Zimmer playing off their theme. But more than Limp Bizkit, this is the first movie Metallica recorded a song for. I Disappear by Metallica is fantastic on this soundtrack. I wish it was more in the movie. It's just great. It has a great soundtrack. I personally think the movie's okay, and especially for an action film, just to enjoy and have a good time. But if there's a theory of bad movies having great soundtracks, this is one of them. This soundtrack kicks ass. It's great. Just look at that. Just that's action there. Tom Cruise, signature thing, same cover as Minority Report, practically, in flames, pigeons everywhere in the background. Yeah, John Woo has a pigeon thing. But yeah, you get to see his great action. He did a lot of the Hong Kong films and stuff, and with Hard Boy, you get to see him have like an Americanized kung fu with like Ethan Hunt. What more can you ask for? It brings a very different style with his type of action onto like American cinema. It makes it a very unique experience, I feel, and really great. And like I said, it's not the best Mission Impossible film, but I think it is a good film. I actually go between Ghost Protocol and MI2, and I'm in the minority there, but like Ghost Protocol is a little bit more humorous, and this one's a little bit more serious, but this one has some great action. Like, if you just take Mission Impossible out of it entirely and watch this as an action movie, it's actually pretty darn entertaining, and there's some good stuff between Nia and Ethan and Tom Cruise. Even though he does have, like, his yelling scene, which is like, "You have 48 hours until Chimera kicks in. I'll get Bellerophon in your system until then. Just stay alive!" Just all that yelling stuff. "I'm not gonna lose you!" And then him shooting the guys, and then you get to see a lot of bullet time stuff. Great stuff there. The editing's a little bit funny in some parts, but that might be because of the 3-hour cut short. Other than that, if I had to give Mission Impossible 2 MI2 a score, give it a B+, 3.5 out of 5, and 8 out of 10. It's not the worst movie ever. It's not Oscar movie, but you know what? It is an action film. It's not entirely like a Mission Impossible movie either, but you know, all the Mission Impossibles are different, and I respect that, but this is just a great action film. The first Mission Impossible really didn't become an action film until the end of the subway tunnel, but this is the first Mission Impossible to really have an action, like, genre feel to it. They kind of incorporated that later on with MI3 and the others, and he has a team. Ethan Hunt's still on his own, even though he does have a team, but he's pretty much a shoot-'em-up guy. He's like shoot first, talk later in this one. He's pretty much like a 21st century James Bond, and you could tell the influences The Matrix had and some of the kung fu films on this film. It's just crazy. So yeah, that's my reaction to Mission Impossible 2. Go check it out if you haven't already. If you've seen the recent Mission Impossible films but haven't checked out the earlier ones, definitely check out the first from 1996. And then check this one out. You're in for a good time. You may laugh. There's some serious parts, not so serious parts. Who cares? It's just an enjoyable film whether you like it or not. It's going to be enjoyable. So check it out.